didn't experience that.
He's trying to tell her staffers that this is an urgent moment because the next mayor could come in and close charters, and the people who work at Success Academy could lose their jobs.
So Moskowitz is insisting her staff participate in political activity. Is she allowed to do that? And did you speak to any of those employees?
Well, I did speak to an expert. Under the law, a nonprofit can perform advocacy for an issue, like supporting charters. It just can't wade into partisan politics where they're seen as supporting a particular candidate or opposing a particular candidate. But you can see how they're walking a fine line here, right? As for how the employees feel, I was given this tape by a Success Academy employee who was uncomfortable with being told that they had to join in the march. The employee was also happy with, other rules and edicts at Success Academy. Here's Moskowitz talking to them about what they had to wear at the rally.
If you've always wanted to wear holy jeans, this is it. This is the only time you're going to get to do that as an SA employee. No holy jeans. Okay. Our dress casual might be a little different, but I'm more worried about the dress code at the network, which you guys need to elevate a little bit here. You're not meeting the standards.
So I think she's talking about worn jeans, that have holes in them. But you see how that went from a light moment to a moment where she starts admonishing them. She starts admonishing them about the way they're dressing at work and how it's not meeting their standard. That is very, very much in keeping with the culture of Success Academy and the way Eva Moskowitz runs it.
So what does she say about Zohran Mamdani, the frontrunner to become next mayor?
Well, given what I told you about the law, she didn't mention him by name in this particular setting. But I've been told that she has said at other moments that she does see him as the likely winner of the mayoral race. Other candidates are more supportive of charters. Andrew Cuomo has said that if he becomes mayor, he'll push the state to lift the cap on charters. It'll be interesting to see if Cuomo tries to join the march. A spokesman for a coalition of the charters that are marching today sent out a statement telling candidates not to attend. This is to avoid making the event about electoral politics.
That's WNYC's Elizabeth Kim. Thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Michael.
WNYC receives support from Pine Street School in Lower Manhattan, accepting students from nursery through 8th grade, offering immersive Spanish or Mandarin and a global IB curriculum. Learn more at pinestreetschool.com.
The grand experiment to boss around the U.S. private sector.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Odoo, dedicated to providing software designed to scale with businesses. Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more aim to provide building blocks for creating a custom software suite. Odoo, what businesses need. And by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is looking for individuals who want to join an inclusive and unique culture. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers.
I'm David Brancaccio in Los Angeles. First, predictions were right. The Federal Reserve did lower its key interest rate by 1/4 percentage point yesterday. What lies ahead is less predictable, with different members of the Fed's interest rate committee forecasting different outcomes. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer explains.
4 times a year, the Fed issues what it calls a summary of economic projections, predictions for economic growth, unemployment, inflation, and interest rates. The Fed's interest rate projections are mapped out in a graph, with each member of the FOMC, the committee that votes on interest rates, represented by a dot. It's called the dot plot. And Fed Chair Jerome Powell acknowledges it's not mapping out a clear path.
It's not incredibly obvious what to do. So we have to keep our eye on inflation. At the same time, we cannot ignore and must keep our eye on maximum employment, which is those are our 2 equal goals.
And Powell stressed that the dot plot just represents FOMC members' opinions, where they think interest rates should be set to achieve the Fed's goals. Powell noted that 10 of the dots point to 2 or more interest rate cuts for the rest of the year, and 9 people wrote down fewer or no rate cuts. Powell said, in essence, take the dot plot and the Summary of Economic Projections, or SEP, with a grain of salt.
Rather than looking at this as certainty, I would encourage people, as always, to look at the SEP as through the lens of probability. And so there are different possible outcomes.
Powell says this mosaic of dots is natural, adding that it would be surprising if you didn't have a pretty wide range of views in a highly unusual situation. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
Markets, the 10-year interest rate is down at 4.05% now. Stocks, S&P futures are up 0.8%. NASDAQ futures are up 1%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, dedicated to helping businesses save time on office tasks and empower leaders with business buying solutions that support teams to focus on growing the business. Learn about smart business buying at amazonbusiness.com. And by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com.
Under Democrat Joe Biden, there was what was called industrial policy. What do we call an economy managed from the White House the way we are seeing now? The list of interventions is long. President Trump calling for the immediate removal of the CEO of a top 100 corporation, the federal government purchasing just under 10% of the same company, microchip maker Intel. There are special exemptions to tariffs. There was the president calling on Walmart not to raise prices despite new import taxes. Justin Wilfers is an economist and public policy expert at the University of Michigan.
You also forgot a few others. He's been redesigning the Cracker Barrel logo in his spare time, calling Harvard and telling it who to hire, fire, and what to put on its curriculum. He's been talking to NVIDIA and AMD about under what conditions he'll let them sell their goods in China. He has a golden share in US Steel. And not too long ago, he called Goldman Sachs and told them to fire their chief economist. It's a long list.
It's a long list, and I guess, as we search for what to describe this as, I know what to not describe it as. It doesn't sound like an orthodox free market approach to the private sector.
Absolutely. So, right, what words can we give it? So one would be state capitalism. Capitalism is, obviously, we still have free markets in most things, but there's a lot of direction from the state, as per China. Another would be intervention. I like this term intervention because it describes what they're doing. They're intervening in the economy. Intervening often where it's to please the president's whims rather than there being a deep economic reason. I've had a number of journalists from more populist outfits who'd say, well, this is socialism. It's not. This is communism. It's not. It's government intervention. It's the heavy hand. Sometimes it's the greedy hand as well, because some of these moves, particularly when it comes to crypto and the like, are actually very closely related to the president's personal interests. This might be the most important, crony capitalism. So it's not just that the government's intervening. This is where policy helps the president's cronies. And so if you want something good, if you want regulatory relief, you have to turn up to the White House and you have to praise the president.
I mean, a lot of this adds up to a lot of friction for markets in different ways. It sounds like the opposite of efficiency in some ways.
Yes. One way of telling the story is the story of Apple. Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, brilliant visionary, relentlessly focused on creating a better product, and he succeeded. Apple products are brilliant and beautiful. And that was his job. And, he was so relentless that some people found him hard to deal with, but he was focused on better products. Tim Cook doesn't get to spend that much time looking at shiny new products. He's flying off to Mar-a-Lago. He's flying to Washington. He's having meetings about where the factories should or shouldn't be and what will or won't upset the White House. And so what this does, I tell the story there of Apple, not because I care about Apple, but because it's a metaphor for what's happening inside every company, is it moves you away from competing in the marketplace, who's producing a better mousetrap, a shinier mousetrap, to competing in the political marketplace. And that's part of Tim Cook's job now, an important part, because if he didn't do well at that, Apple would fail. But that's all time that the company is focused on the White House rather than its customers. And that's going to lead to worse outcomes.
Justin Wolfers is a professor of economics and public policy at the Gerald R. Ford School of Public Policy at the University of Michigan. Justin, thank you so much.
Great pleasure, mate.
Meanwhile, Stephen Myron, now on leave from his role as chair of the President's Council of Economic Advisors to fill in at the Federal Reserve, has consistently said that the president's interventions are focused on dealing with unfair trade practices and boosting U.S. jobs. In Los Angeles, I'm David Brancaccio. It's the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.